Welcome back, and thanks for joining me for part 3 of 4 of this series. That's all about advanced formatting in Word. And we're going to continue on where we left off the last time. And remember, I'm using Word 2016, and many of these things should also work in the older versions all the way back to the 2007 version. So let's go ahead and get started working with some more formatting issues, and one of which I want to show you is some more copying and pasting, but also working with tables and formatting tables. So we left off last time working with the columns and deleting a page break. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to re-enable the show hide so I can see where everything is, and I have some paragraph breaks after this section I have right here that's written all about the equipment, and I wanted to see where that is because I want to make sure I leave at least one paragraph break after the section I have written, and I'm going to insert a page break after that instead of having it before. So to do that, I click on the second paragraph, and if there wasn't one, if there was just one, then I would go ahead and hit return at that point. And I'm going to go to the Insert tab. And when I go there, I have this option called Page Break. And I want to do that because I want my table that I'm going to be copying out of another document and pasting in onto a new page. So I select that option and it moves me right to that next page. The page break is also located under the Layout tab if you want to go there, and it's under the breaks. But the shortcut to do it when you want it to go to that next page is under the Insert tab. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and open up document that I want to copy out of, and I want to copy out of this one in this case. And when I do that, you can see I have these little dash lines here, and it's because I have something enabled. So let me click into the table. The Table Tools tab will become available once I click into a table. But let me show you, I have enabled this view grid line, so if I get rid of that, those go away. And those are only viewable on my monitor and only on my monitor. So if I send this document to someone else, they won't see those grid lines unless they also have view grid lines enabled. And I wanted to show you where that is because let's go back to the home and get rid of this. I can see this table here, and I have this big space here that I might want to get rid of. So that's why it's really important to have that show hide and the view grid lines, because if I hit backspace, it doesn't move anything. And I might be wondering, well, why isn't that moving everything up? Well, in the past, for documents you have that might have had that same problem, it might have been in a table. So let's go back to the show hide and then the layout under the table tools and view grid lines. So I always leave that enabled, and once you turn it on, it stays turned on for every document until you turn it off. And remember, it doesn't affect anything. Even when I print, even though I have it enabled, it doesn't print these grid lines. It's only for viewing purposes. So remember, if I want to copy it to paste it into my new document, all I have to do as a shortcut is go to the margin area and triple click my mouse button. There we go. And then I select copy. Then go ahead and close this document. And I'm already located in the area of my document I want to paste it in. And I go back to home. And remember, I have these different paste options. And I want to do merge formatting. So when I do that, then I have that entire document there. And the reason I didn't just do a bunch of hard returns after this one and hard return it down to the next page, and why I insert a page break instead, is if I did decide to add more information here, it would constantly shift this down and it constantly have to go back and delete returns to get it back to the top. There's plus and minuses to doing a page break, so you have to figure out what's best for you. But by showing you how to handle all this formatting, it should enable you and empower you to be able to format the way you want. Okay, so let's just start formatting. Let's say I want this directly after my title. I have this space here, and if I try to click here, I can see that there's no return there. Also, by looking at these little paragraph breaks, I can see that there's no return. So this is probably just a resizing of my cells So I can actually just move that up a little bit, that line. So how I did that is, let me undo, is I moved my cursor to that dash line, that grid line of my table, and once I get it right on there, you can see how the cursor changes. That looks like a long equal sign with an arrow up and down. I can just hold down the button on my mouse and drag it up or down according to how I want it, and that will start fixing that. So I have the same thing here in this case, and I can do that throughout to just clean this up. But the other thing is I have this big space here that I don't need, and I could see that for the formatting of this, there's an empty row underneath each item in this fake agenda. And in this case there's two, and one of them is this really big one. So I can actually just go here, and what I did is I put my cursor in one of the cells, so I could have put it in the far left hand or the far right hand. I just start left to right because that's the way I read, and holding down the button on my mouse, I can just highlight across, and that selects that entire row. And when I do that, this little window comes up and I can choose delete, and I want to delete the row. And here I can see that there's no returns after this, so this is a resizing thing. So I can just work on cleaning this up. So I also noticed that I have this weird little table, so whoever had formatted the last one probably didn't know that they had a table or had accidentally inserted a single row table below. Can't just click here and hit delete, it doesn't do anything. If I select all of the rows just like that and hit the delete on my keyboard, it does not delete it. So an easy way to delete an entire table, especially since I have all these returns I don't want, is I can go up to one of those returns and then hold down the button on my mouse. So let me do that again. I've gone up to one above that, and then I hold down the button on my mouse, and then I just drag my cursor down. As you can see, I have that entire area selected. I can just hit delete. The other thing I could have done is just highlight the entire row and right click and delete, like I showed you the row up, deleting the rows above. So it's just whatever's easiest for you. If you don't have those grid lines enabled, I want to give you another clue. Let me click in my table and go to layout and turn that off. Another way I can tell that I have a table are these, what looks like a little circle with 4 little lines coming out. So let me zoom in, and you can see it right here. So that's indicating to me I have a table. So if I did that and I hadn't enabled my tables yet, the other thing is when I click in a table, the table tools tab will come up, and then I can view grid lines. Okay. So let me zoom back out, and let's just continue cleaning up this table because there's a couple things I want to show you. I have an extra line down here that I really don't need, but I can see that because whoever had created on this agenda before didn't realize it was in table format. They did a return to get that space between. Well, we want to really clean this up. So let's get rid of that return, resize this, and then what we can do is we can cut and copy this, and let's move it down. So how I did that, let me undo, is I just put my cursor there and highlight it across, and then move, and then I release after I had selected it. Then I move my cursor over to the one column, and then I held down the button on my mouse and I drug it down, and it moved everything. So let's start at the very top though to work on this formatting and cleaning up this table. And let's scroll down and make sure we have that blank row underneath each one. We don't in this case. So what I can do is I can select a row and then right click and then select insert and insert rows below. Okay, and the thing is then I need to get rid of all this messed up formatting, and I can just select these and move these down. The other thing is these 2 dots here, that just means that they're spaces, so I can delete those. And I want to go ahead and delete all of this mess. And then resize this. See, it's just a lot of just cleaning up and being consistent. Consistency is all about making your document look professional. And I know people won't be able to see these grid lines, but it'll be easier for me in the future to make adjustments if I clean it all up and make it consistent. So I need a spank row above this one, so I can select it and insert, and I can also choose insert rows above or below. And I have those all added now. It looks pretty good. The other thing I noticed is that I have a lot white space between my times on my agenda and the items. So what I could do is, just like how I moved the rows up, meaning resize them, I can also resize the columns in the same way. So I can move my cursor over, and when it turns into what looks like is equal, that's standing up, and then the arrows are pointing to the left and right, I can move my cursor there until it gets to that shape. Holding down the button on my mouse, I can drag that in and I can resize. And benefits to that is, if I had something long in one of my cells, it would resize for that as well. There's other things I can do. So sometimes what people do is they don't realize, like, let's say I have this entire cell selected, and how I can do that is, see how my cursor now has turned into a solid black arrow. I can click there, and that means it selects the entire cell. And then if I wanted to move the line, or I should say the column size for just that row, I have to select that cell, and then I can move that line. So you could do that for a bunch of these if you wanted to, depending on what your purposes are, but that's how you can readjust for your table. So I'm going to go ahead and undo because I want them all there. And then I can essentially turn off the view grid lines and go to the home and turn off the show hide, and it's looking much cleaner. Now that's a much better looking agenda. So I'm going to turn it back on because there's some other little basic things I want to do. Another thing is if I feel like these are too close together, like this is really tight, what I could do is I could select all the information in that cell and go back to the Home tab, and just like how we adjusted the line spacing in the previous session that we recorded, we can also change it here. So I could change it to 1.5 and it would change it like that. I think that takes up a lot of space, so I'm going to undo. But it's whatever you think is appropriate for you. And just like how we worked with the bullets in the last one, I can readjust my spacing on my bullets in my table just like I did in a regular formatted text in Word. And remember, I have to make sure I have my ruler enabled, and then I can readjust my bullets that way and pull these over so it's not quite so intense of an indent. Okay, so that concludes today's training, and I hope you join me again next time, and thank you for joining me today.